Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case.
That sage and wise old soothsayer, Sylvester Stallone, perhaps said it best. Boxing is sort of an inevitability, he once opined, because, quote, we know they are going to be pounding each other, unquote. The investigation into Hillary Clinton's mishandling of what could be highly sensitive emails, her use of a private server at her home, and the FBI investigation that followed had all the hallmarks of a heavyweight title bout. Because since the moment a hint of impropriety was detected, Republicans have been pounding away at the presumptive Democratic nominee with what should have been crushing body blows. The person who wants to lead this nation being so careless, so cavalier, so arrogant, to believe herself above the law in a case as sensitive as this, pounding away with what was public evidence about her possible criminal actions and the inevitable nature of her being forced to stand trial for her alleged crimes against America. In their mind, this was a fight designed for a knockout blow of epic proportions, and there was no way possible she could escape being slammed to the political canvas, the 10 count being delivered, and a guarantee there would be no Clinton coronation in 2017. But Hillary Clinton and her operatives have been here before. They have absorbed so many damaging hits that should have crumpled any other foe to the ring apron. They took the tack made popular by the great one, Muhammad Ali. Let the opponent punch themselves out, let them tire themselves out, and then wait for the opening to deliver a knockout punch of their own. What we have seen today would seem, for all intents and purposes, to be a Clinton roundhouse right against Republicans, the rope-a-dope that leaves them gasping for air and with nowhere to turn now that the FBI has spoken in the case. But to count out the Republican response to this would be folly at its finest, because while the punch has been thrown, the referee is still counting. Your phone calls need to be part of what has happened today. Your reaction. Be ready and on the line at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629. First, let's set the scene with Miranda Kahn. Miranda?
Thanks, Ed. Sticking with that boxing analogy, I think it's pretty fair to say that this round went to Hillary Clinton. President Obama joined her on the campaign trail for the first time ever today.
I believe in Hillary Clinton.
And the FBI ended its investigation into her private email server, recommending no charges for the former Secretary of State. It's been 16 months after the New York Times first reported that Hillary Clinton used a private email server, which she defended, saying it was for convenience.
It was allowed by the State Department, but I should have used two different accounts.
The FBI investigation wrapped up just in time for the Democratic convention just 2 weeks away. And while Hillary's trustworthiness continues to flatline, the conclusion to the criminal probe also follows a holiday weekend interview at the J. Edgar Hoover building with investigators and the former Secretary of State. Was the sit-down just a formality? The end of the FBI's email investigation also comes after that recent meeting with President Bill Clinton and Attorney General Loretta Lynch.
I certainly wouldn't do it again.
Did she reveal to the former president the outcome of that investigation? An op-ed in USA Today points out that some have suggested a President Hillary might nominate Lynch to the Supreme Court, but even that might be too much for Democrats.
It doesn't send the right signal.
Republican leaders are now calling for a special prosecutor to be appointed. They say they just don't trust Loretta Lynch or the Department of Justice to be impartial. And Republican leaders are speaking out against the decision today. House Speaker Paul Ryan says it defies explanation. He says Clinton misled the American people. Ed, back to you.
All right, thanks, Miranda. Everybody get ready on the phone lines now. Let's get to work. Let's welcome back the former federal prosecutor who worked in the Department of Justice for 10 years, author of Licensed to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice. Sidney Powell joins us on the hard line. Sidney, it's a pleasure to have you back, and let me begin right away by looking to one of your peers, Andrew McCarthy, the former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, writing in the National Review tonight, and I quote, Hillary Clinton checked every box required for a felony violation of Section 793F of the Federal Penal Code, Title 18. With lawful access to highly classified information, she acted with gross negligence in removing and causing it to be removed from its proper place of custody. And she transmitted it and caused it to be transmitted to others not authorized to have it in patent violation of her trust. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree with Andy. She violated the law as soon as she received confidential information on her personal email whatsoever. In fact, I think she violated it when she set up the email server, because she did it with the clear and deliberate intent to avoid the application of the Federal Records Act and the Freedom of Information Act. She didn't want any of her emails subject to public scrutiny, even though that is required by law.
If indeed, though, this is exactly what happened, as Andrew McCarthy states, and you agree with, the simple question the American people want to know then is, why no indictment?
Because, as even Director Comey mentioned, there are hundreds of other people that are actually implicated in her email disaster, including, no doubt, the president, his former chief White House counsel, Catherine Rumler, Loretta Lynch herself, possibly, any number of people who sent and received emails from Secretary Clinton at the time are also implicated because they knew she was using a private server. All of that information should have been both produced to the FBI and indicates that she's guilty of the crime under the Espionage Act, which, by the way, doesn't require the level of intent that Director Comey implies. In fact, even if she had accidentally transmitted information via that server, she would have committed an offense.
Let me then ask
He
you something.
essentially describes her as being absolutely reckless in her conduct, and that alone would meet a gross negligence standard.
But let me then talk to something specifically here with regard to the law. There is a legal concept called mens rea. And as a general rule, most crimes require prosecutors to prove that any individual acted with a particular state of mind before they can be convicted of a specific crime. Now, according to those who are on Hillary Clinton's side, they say she had to have acted with knowledge that specific information was classified when it was transmitted. They claim there's little evidence that she possessed that state of mind. Isn't that frighteningly subjective?
It is frighteningly subjective, and that's why that standard is not included in this statute. The espionage statute is designed to protect the security of the United States, for which Secretary Clinton evidenced nothing but callous disregard. She obviously had no respect for the law whatsoever. She's the person and one of the people who should have, who was able to classify the information as top secret. So she, of all people, knew exactly what she was doing. She has no ignorance of the law excuse in this case, even if that were a valid excuse, and it's not under this statute. It does not require specific intent to violate the law for the very reason that this information is so in need of being protected.
Seeing what happened today, James Comey, the FBI director, said we see no reason to move forward. The Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, has already said that she would accept whatever came from the FBI. The uproar that is here, the things that we've just talked about, we haven't even touched on all the various elements here, Sidney. What is the next step? Is there a next step? Can Congress get involved? Is there some other way to bring this to a better form of justice, or are we at the dead end?
Unless there's a way to get a special prosecutor appointed, you cannot expect anything legitimate from this Department of Justice. Unfortunately, as I describe in my book, License to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice, all of the people in charge of the Justice Department now and any number of other people that have been linked and served in high roles in this administration are part of a corrupt cabal of former Enron task force prosecutors who specialize in hiding the ball, hiding evidence of defendants' innocence, prosecuting people that the administration wants to target. It's all a political crony system, just a corrupt group of cronies that are pursuing the president's social agenda, whatever it may be.
We are talking
and Hillary
about
Clinton is the epitome of that kind of official.
We are talking about the words corruption and cover-up, which I think we have only just begun to touch on here. And again, as I noted in my lead-in here, the Hillary Clinton camp should be doing anything but celebrating tonight. Sidney Powell, it's always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll look forward to speaking again. Now let's go ahead and get some of your comments here. Please keep them brief. We only have a short time. We'll be talking about this throughout the show if you don't get in right now. 1-877-Newsmax. Rich from White Plains, New York, you're not shocked Hillary was acquitted. 20 seconds, why?
Hey, Ed, how you doing?
Good, sir.
Well, I think the email scandal lacks a victim. In Benghazi, there were 4 people dead. With Eric Holder, there was, and the Fast and Furious debacle, where he was held in contempt of Congress, there was a dead border patrolman. So I think if there had been a victim, if some leaked information coming from Hillary's server had led to somebody's injury or death, you'd have a better chance of prosecuting.
And I just want to point out then the word that I was given was acquitted. That is incorrect. She was not found. She was not on trial for anything, so the word acquitted is not correct in that statement that was handed me. Thank you very much. Dave from Mound Ridge, Kansas, you're not happy about this. Give me 20 seconds. Why?
Because it's just another thing showing that the people of the United States really don't have anything to say about what the candidates and what the people in Congress and stuff do. We have been lied to so many times, and the law doesn't pertain to them. They can do things, and they say, oh, well, that's just what happened. That's the way it is.
It would seem to be that's exactly where we're heading. Once again, there's a certain set of rules for others. I have a feeling that if you and I were involved in this, we'd probably be in a jumpsuit right now ourselves. Thanks for the call. The FBI decision, its effect on the polls, another set of numbers giving the Never Trump camp what could be their final shot at making conventioneering noise. That's coming up next, plus your phone calls as we continue here on The Hardline.